Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a special show as Jacob Tanswell, the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent, and myself, Dan Bardell, look back on Villa's FA Youth Cup triumph yesterday, 3-1 against Manchester City. Jacob, of course, was there, so we're going to pick his brains to do everything to do with the youth team. We're going to touch on the Tottenham fixture news that's just come in as well, although I'm on TalkSport later talking about it, so I may just do that show and upload it on here, to be honest, but we will touch on it and get Jacob's view on what's happened with that fixture movement. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper. If you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off. Good morning, Jacob, fresh back from his gym session. Greg and I did touch on the FA Youth Cup yesterday, but it'll be good to get your viewpoint because obviously you were there in the press box as normal. But before we do get into the Youth Cup final, let's touch on this fixture. I don't even know what to call it, fixture debacle, I suppose. To be moving a fixture at this late stage is an absolute joke and very unfair on travelling fans that come from far distances, any fan that moves work around Villa games and things like that. It's not on. Also, when you factor in the fact that Villa got absolutely no help at all earlier on in the season when they wanted some help with the fixtures, I just think this is not great at all. It does show I don't know whether you agree with me, but I think it does show Premier League favouritism towards the traditional Big Six. I don't know whether these prior relationships play a part, but it does feel like the Big Six kind of get the rub of the green with these kind of decisions. And just overall, I think it's quite a disappointing day, in all honesty.
Yeah, when you're at school and teachers always pay the most attention to the disruptors in the classroom, don't they? They sit down the front, they move the chairs for them. They, the good kids at the back who just get on with their work, they do what's told. You leave them alone. They don't ever kick up a fuss. They're low maintenance. But these that always moan, the teacher is always paying attention to them, and that's what the Premier League does for the top six. They all kick off. He's got 24 hours more rest than we have, even though we're not even in the final yet. And then Man United would argue back it's the same thing. It's the same with the Super League as well. Undoubtedly, Premier League would deny it, but there's a favouritism because these guys, top six, have an ego, they have an arrogance, they think we're the ones that deliver the money, we drive the revenue, we should have the say. That ultimately was what led to the Super League being created and then ultimately flawed. And Tottenham obviously expressed their doubts. Villa have expressed their doubts multiple times this season, but also last year. Do you remember when they played Lille in that Conference League? They had a tight turnaround. And Lille had the weekend off, similar to PSG this time. Premier League did not offer that, which, that's fine if it's going to be a blanket rule. But this time feels different because Premier League were actively doing Tottenham a favour, and Villa have had no favours. Those 5 games in 13 days when they decided to chuck in and bring the Liverpool game forward because they're in the Carabao Cup final to only
which is unprecedented as well, isn't it, to bring a game forward? Usually that game gets arranged for after it was supposed to be. To move it forward at such short notice, that was a bit out of order as well.
But the annoying thing is that it was in that period where Villa had enough games anyway. In March, Villa only had 1 Premier League game. They could definitely have found a time to put that game into that month. So that's I just think it's absolutely bizarre. And football, we like to pretend it's nice and fair and it's on an even playing field, but it's not. And that I'm not a Villa fan, but that really, really got my back up last week when I heard, I heard about the Friday fixture list last Thursday. Villa had been aware of it since last Thursday, Friday, and they were happier than it would be if it was a Wednesday.
Yeah,
they're still not ultimately that pleased.
Is that a small win for Villa that it got put on the Friday rather than the Wednesday?
They managed to push it back by a couple of days. Yeah, I think they were still annoyed. They definitely objected to Premier League about the Wednesday, but I do think the Friday they would have taken. I think that they were fine with that in the end.
Is that a meet in the middle?
It is, but there shouldn't be a meet in the middle. It should just be the game. I don't get it. And anyway, let's be honest, Tottenham, they won't play their strongest team anyway. You see the team they've been putting out in the last couple of weeks in the Premier League. Van der Ven doesn't play, Romero doesn't play, a lot of their front four doesn't play. So let's be honest, they probably just go to Villa Park, have their tummies tickled, and roll over and lose 2-0, and then they go to the final. And that's what they'll probably do anyway. So
they're not even at the final. They might not even get there. I mean, it would be hilarious if they didn't get to the final now.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few Villa fans hate watching that game, won't they? Just hoping Birmingham didn't win. That would be quite funny.
Yeah, it's definitely taken up a new angle. Could argue as well that what you just said about Spurs' team selection, they've kind of been disrespecting the Premier League in general for the last month or so. So why should they
Well,
be rewarded for that?
Spurs and Man United have, but saying that, even with the strongest team, they've been pretty terrible, haven't they? So
Yeah,
I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
no. I can't actually see how many people have joined us live at the moment. There is people in the chat, so it usually tells me how many people are live, but I'm not seeing that. But thank you for those that have joined us live. I can see the comments coming in, just can't see how many of you there are in at the moment. But I'm presuming people are watching it okay, because that would be a shame
Yeah,
if they
it's
were.
on my YouTube. It's on my YouTube.
That's good. Good to know. That's just our usual technical problems. You know what my theory is that when Villa have been asking for fixtures to be moved, although actually it doesn't make sense because Villa were in the Champions League at the time of the Liverpool game, but you referenced the Conference League last season. The Premier League will want to have as many teams in the Champions League next season as possible, and helping Spurs and Manchester United. Although one of them, I suppose, if they both get to final, obviously one's going to be in there anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. But it's almost like just the Premier League wants as much exposure as possible, as many Premier League teams in the Champions League as possible. But then we needed help earlier in the season, and we didn't get it.
Yeah, I just don't think they want the problem of one of the top 6 clubs throwing their toys at the pram completely. So they just decided to put the dummy back in the mouth and move the game. That's what they've done, really. This Premier League are just too weak and soft, aren't they? And that's why you need a regulator. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say any more because I'll end up getting myself in trouble. I've got in trouble around this kind of thing before with my general work, so I should probably not say anything. But yeah, I do think the decision's absolutely ludicrous. It smacks of stereotypical Big Six bias, and I think all Villa fans should be very, very unhappy about it. Spurs fans as well, who will have booked travel and stuff around the game, thinking it's going to be on a Sunday. It does affect them as well. I mean, they'll probably not be as vocal about it because obviously they want help, but it still affects them as well. It's just, again, it feels like the people that actually go to the games, they're the ones that get punished time after time.
These Spurs fans are going to have to make the trip up, aren't they? But even the long distance Villa supporters, right? I was speaking to a few.
There's lots
come
of
over
them
from Ireland every game, Isle of Wight, Cornwall. They've got to change their travel plan. So it always feels like this. But we've known this for years. It's not a new issue, is it, in terms of TV, taking precedent and caring about the television audience and forgetting about the match audience. So it's such a shame, but nothing ever seems to change, does it, at the moment?
I was going to say getting back on a Friday night is not extremely helpful to a lot of these people, but to be fair, getting back on a Sunday afternoon/evening, not much better. In all honesty, but people don't get compensated. That's the worst thing. People will have fought down things that they're not going to be able to get refunded on, safe in the knowledge that game was taking place when it was taking place because it's already been moved. So yeah, just makes no sense. But have to try and grin and bear it, I guess. And hopefully we just absolutely smash them. But even if we did, I'm not sure they actually care too much about this game in general. So why not just forfeit the game and give us the 3 points? If you've got so much disdain towards this Premier League game, just don't bloody play it.
I'm sure Ange doesn't really care about the game, does he? He knows he's probably being sacked at the end of the season, and he knows this is his last chance for some silverware, doesn't it? So, I think as far as Man United and Tottenham are concerned, they just rather speed up to the final now and get this season done with.
Yeah, so there's people like Phil Cartwright here in the chat. Season ticket holder from Cambridge, working the Friday. Now I can't make it. Disgrace to the real fans. Prem can do one. It's fair. People to be frustrated. It's fair. But Villa fans have had it pretty rough this season in general. In my opinion, we'll probably do a show on this kind of thing at some point when we can. But in terms of like pricing, fixture moves, just everything, I think Villa fans have had it really, really rough this season. That was the big thing at Box Park when Damian came out and said what he said about how hard it's been for the Villa fans this season. Obviously, it's been a brilliant season. Obviously, memories to last a lifetime and trips to last, all that stuff. But it's been quite tough on the Villa fans this season with season ticket charges, people moving seats, fixture congestion, fixture movement now as well. Villa fans have had it tough this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, not just your opinion. The facts are there, aren't they? More the money they're spending, the hours they're spending on travelling, supporting. Of course, they've had some brilliant nights, and so it's pretty good that Villa are doing so well. Really, relatively speaking, they could be a mid-table team that has not had days out at Wembley, the big Champions League nights, for example. But the money that Villa fans are putting into it, I know and the ticketing, the pricing, the changes in schedule. Next year as well, it'd probably be tougher for home and away supporters, especially away supporters, with the changes the club may make. So it's going to be disappointing, and it has been disappointing all season.
Yeah, we'll do a show on it on some point, won't we? But let's talk about the topic then that we were here to talk about, the FA Youth Cup final triumph. Jacob, you were there yesterday. You've done a piece on the Athletic this morning around it that I haven't read yet as well. How was it, Bank Holiday Monday at Villa Park, watching a trophy lift?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really good game. I thought Villa were absolutely fantastic, and I loved the atmosphere. Really, it's a little bit different. It was Bank Holiday Monday. A lot of young kids in the crowd, some of whom were going to Villa Park for the first time. So it's a great way of getting those, boys and girls hooked on Villa. But the atmosphere was great. Obviously, they sold 16,000 a couple of days before. They got a massive uptick on the day, £1 ticket sales, which would have pleased Chris Heck enormously. I know he tweeted about it. 25,073 were there in the end.
Let's face it, he didn't care. It doesn't matter now, does it?
I know, but he enjoys the data, doesn't he? And anything that looks good on Villa fans. And I thought, for a FA Youth Cups final, it was a fitting and brilliant performance. I'm so pleased the Under-18s did themselves justice, because when you're 17, 18 and you're playing in front of 25,000 fans for the first time, you don't know how you're going to react, do you? You don't know if you're going to, roll over, or you're going to come out and be really good. And every single player on that pitch was absolutely fantastic, really. And against a City team that formidable, 25 straight wins, haven't lost since November. They won their league easy, and really, Villa deserved it. Apart from those first 2 minutes, they were fantastic.
Yeah, I want to touch on two things that you brought up there. The first one is, I said this to my wife yesterday, is that actually, and I saw a family of four coming back. They're obviously coming back from the game, and I kind of said to her, I said, it's quite sad now actually that this is kind of on the ticketing theme a little bit. Those four people, that might be the only way they can afford to get to Villa Park this season because of everything that's changed. That might be the only chance they get to go as a whole family of four to Villa Park this season. People go into that game. And did you get the feel that it was obviously you've said it's a lot of younger fans? Do you get that feeling as well?
Yeah, I did think that actually, that these guys aren't going to have the opportunity to go to games like you say, because if they want, for example, a family of four, how much is that going to cost for a normal Premier League game?
And you can't get four seats together a lot of the time as well.
Exactly, where you can go there, for £4, and it was obviously you're not seeing the first team, but you're seeing a really good high level. You're seeing Villa Park, you see it in the atmosphere, you're seeing the stand. Just might be sitting in the whole end for the first time. If I wasn't covering the game, I probably would have got a ticket and sat high up in the whole end. I've always wanted to do that. So it was a really enjoyable game. And Morgan Rogers, Jacob Rams were there. They seemed to enjoy it. And hopefully this is the start of a couple of those players really breaking through now. We've talked about it before. Emery's done a lot of brilliant work at Villa, but one of the blind spots, probably the only blind spot, is it's not.
It's the only thing missing, that and a substitute goalkeeper.
He's not quite integrated anyone to the first team, has he yet? So if one of those can break through, then absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he looked fantastic. Looked a real spectacle. Obviously, some great goals on show and some great football on show as well.
Yeah.
Do you think, you referenced Manchester City, the incredible run, incredible youth team? Greg and I said yesterday, the best of the best player for Manchester City. You are going to be, sounds stupid, but if you're playing for Manchester City now, you're probably going to be a professional footballer somewhere.
Yeah.
You might not make it at Man City, you might not make it in the Premier League or even the Championship, but you're probably going to be a footballer somewhere. Like the standard there in their academy is so high. Do you think because Villa, a lot of those players that played yesterday will have had experience of playing in the kind of Youth Champions League? Do you think that would have helped them, that experience in going up against Manchester City? Yeah,
I did think that actually, because they've had a lot of big games this season, haven't they? Villa?
Yeah, loads.
This is going to be this is a big game, and although they've not quite had the attendance they did yesterday, but they've had hard opposition. Barcelona's daunting. Going we go for youth leagues hard, but these players also, a lot of now, because of Villa's progress in terms of their reputation among other scouts recruitment circles, a lot of them are playing for England now as well. So they're being exposed to going away from home on international camps as well, and they're really performing at a high level, not only at their club but performing in a wider sense as well. So I'll take one for example, Liam Routh. He signed from Luton in January 2024, Category 3 football. facilities, style of play, the league he was in, far inferior. But he's grown, and he's now exposed to better opposition, the best strikers, and he's
Yeah.
grown. As a result, he's now got an England call up, and he's absolutely flying. So these players are developing brilliantly, and if you harness good coaching with excellent, shrewd recruitment, you get what you saw yesterday.
Because you look at some of the names in the teams, like we know they've been picked up from other academies, and Villa have done a lot of work in kind of building this under-18s team, and a mix of local lads, players that they've recruited from elsewhere as well. It's a really good setup. Obviously, Jimmy Shan, the manager as well, actually managed against Villa for West Brom in the wasn't that long ago in the playoffs when he was West Brom manager. He was on a temporary basis, but taking on Villa in the playoffs. He's now working with Villa in the academy. But to look at some of the names on that team sheet, and it feels like there's some players to be really, really excited about. Who are the ones that really stood out yesterday?
Yeah, I did a piece a couple of months ago on the top five that's scouts from internally, coaches externally, internally as well. They really highly rate. But yesterday, there's a few players that I thought were fantastic. I thought Rodrigo Fortes was great. He made this beautiful slide in last-ditch tackle. Great athleticism. But one thing you see about these Villa players is that they're so big and so strong. They're, like the two centre halves, Liam Ralph and TJ Carroll, they must be over 6'3". And they're still growing. They're massive, great on the ball. I think Aidan Borland, the captain, I think he's going to be a really special player. He's quite small, so I do think he's got a lot of room to physically grow and get thicker and wider. But technically, he doesn't lose the ball. And when you watch him and you watch the way he runs around, he looks like he's 30 in terms of his maturity, the decisions he makes on the ball. He never loses it. And Emery really likes that Aidan ball, and he really likes how good he is on the ball. That's one of the reasons why Lamar Bogart stepped up to train with the first team, because they love how accurate and what they want to do with the ball a couple of steps ahead. So I thought they were great. Jamal Alaba, was a box-to-box midfielder before Emery came in. Now he's a number 10, and you saw the goal, brilliant goal. I thought Bradley Barrett's got good pace. I think he probably needs to fill out a little bit more. He's got a couple more years. And Cole Brannigan, that goal, hey? Incredible.
What a strike.
But it's just how he just arches his run just so he can get enough contact to get it on target with his left foot. He's another player. They signed him from Linfield a couple of years ago, in August 2023, I think it was. And that just shows the recruitment of this club, the fact that they can not just compete and find the best players with City and Chelsea, who are just hoovering up the domestic market and European market, but they can go to Northern Ireland, they can go to Scotland, sign Aidan Borland, and then integrate them and make them flourish as well. I think they've got some really good players coming up, and hopefully a couple get a chance in pre-season, but I do think a lot, the next step will be in going on loan.
Yeah, nah. Aside for Borland as well, he's got a top barber, same barber as me.
Do you know the same barber as Ben Broggio as well?
Yeah, they both have the same barber as me.
Wow.
Good barber. Barbershop Social, Josh Perusa, top barber.
Might have to do a piece and do an interview of both of them, just getting the haircuts.
I don't know whether they get as good a deal as I get, but yeah.
Really?
They're there every week as well.
Why'd you get a good deal, Dan? Is it because
I go so often? So it works out the same price pretty much for me to go every week.
How often do you get your haircut?
Every week, once a week.
Every week?
It grows really fast, mate. It grows too fast.
You're splashing the cash.
No, it's not. Honestly, I get a good deal. It's not that expensive. But yeah, top operator. So if you want to have the same barber as Broggio and Borland, head to the Barbershop Social. Ask for Josh Perusa. Say Dan sent you, and you'll get a good deal. I wanted to say actually about Broggio, because arguably one of the most exciting players isn't even playing. Broggio, he was obviously involved in the celebrations yesterday, but he's had a real bad problem with his back, hasn't he? So he's not even been involved in this.
No, it's frustrating for him, isn't it? Because he was so good early in the season, captured the attention with his goals and what he was doing. And then he just had an issue. Obviously, came back early, didn't he? Played a few games, got injured again. But I think he's a really good talent. I do think he needs to develop and mature a little bit more. I think he's a really good talent, but I'd probably say he's maybe a little bit less advanced than some of the guys I mentioned, because he needs to fill out a bit more. He needs to learn and he needs to get more, playing up time against bigger men.
I think he's got a lot stockier over the last 12 months.
Yeah, I do, but this is from what I hear. I think I think he's a really good player, and he can be a top player. But I just say it needs a bit more time and to really develop. You see, look at Jamaldine, for example. He's ready made in terms of his physicality. It's just purely through maturation, really, and who develops quicker at their age. And I think Jamaldine's further ahead, and that shows through Emery picking him to be in the senior squad a few times this season.
Yeah, and this team as well, they've still got something else to go for this week
Yeah.
because they can win their league as well. I don't know whether many teams do the double. Is it something that happens quite frequently? It doesn't feel to me like many teams do that, but I could be wrong.
I think, well, when you ever see the monopoly of Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City winning it, they tend to win the league as well, don't they? But for Villa as well, given that a lot of the players that were on display yesterday, they're always playing in that under-18s. A lot of them step up to play for the 21s as well.
Yeah,
So
loads of them have played a lot of games
exactly.
in the 21s.
So Jimmy Shan's in the league also is always having to chop and change, isn't he? Because he's not quite sure of who is going to be in his team every week. So the under-18s are obviously the 17, 18, 19-year-olds are a really good crop, the ones that won the league. But then you see the next step below as well, the 16s, 17s, who are starting to progress and have complemented this under-18 squad in the league brilliantly.
I do remember when Christian Perslow came in, he said something around the lines of, we don't want the under-21s team to be full of 20 and 21-year-olds. We almost want them to almost be skipping an age group, if that makes sense. So you want your 21s to be 18, 19-year-olds, and then you want your 18s to be 16, 17-year-olds. You almost want everyone playing up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, the guys that are kind of 20, 21, 22 now are, some of them being released. I don't think it's been announced yet on Villa, but some of them being released, because if they're not going to be... Football seems to be getting younger, so if you haven't really made it in when you're 20, 21, even 22, you're probably not going to be in the first team at Aston Villa. You've got to hit the ground running when you're 17, 18, 19. So, I didn't know Christian Persson said that, but on reflection, that's a really, really valiant point.
No, it was a good point for me. I remember him saying it at the time. It was years ago now. Obviously, when he came in, what was it, 2019? I want to say when Perslow came in, but it's definitely something that stood out to me at the time. It's definitely something Villa have followed through on. And I know when the owners first arrived as well, because I was in that first meeting, they were very big on youth recruitment. They wanted everything there to be top drawer, best in class. And I think we can say now, they've fulfilled a lot of ambitions, these owners, in terms of getting Villa to the Champions League. But that was one of the boxes that they really wanted to tick. And, this shows again, this is the second time we've won this cup on their watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at that team now, and cruel, maybe quite cruelly, if they're not going to step into Emery's first team, a lot of these players are going to have a lot of market value in the next couple of years. Even Rory Wilson, he signed his 5-year contract, or signed his 2-year contract. They want it to be 5. He's a lot of massive stories about him, a lot of interest about him. But if he doesn't step up in the next couple of years, Villa can get a few million for him. So they'll make a profit on him. I think there's a lot of players in that team that are so highly regarded among other scouts that even if Villa did sell them, there'll be a lot of interested parties. So, and that's a good way of helping PSR as well, right? So it seems like they've all got their ducks in a row. The recruitment and coaching circle in the academy is small, but I think that allows Villa to buy and to make the quicker decisions than you do at, say, Manchester United, where there's so many more chains of command.
Yeah. I think as well, the big thing, I might be wrong in saying this, but when a player plays in a game like that, they get noticed, and now suddenly low moves actually that might not have been there a week ago suddenly are there. And that's good for Villa as well, because it means players will be developing at kind of better clubs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think among other League One, League Two clubs, Villa have got good relationships with them and they trust themselves. So if you look at Bristol Rovers, for example, Villa have sent a lot of players out there in recent times, and that will continue this summer. So League One, League Two clubs see Villa on a similar footing to a Man City or Arsenal, where you think, right, if they're happy and confident about these young boys, then they must be good. We're going to take a chance and we're going to bring them in on a 6-month or season loan. So, yeah, I'm really excited about a lot of these players. If I had to say, right now, off the top of my head, who I think is going to be the next one to make it or to step into first team other than Jamaldine, I'd probably say Aidan Borland and George Hemmings. I think those two are fantastic midfielders, and they look like prototype Emery midfielders.
Borland reminds me of when Barry Bannon was coming through at Villa.
Why is that? It's because he's blonde, because he's quite small.
She's so small, but he just the way he plays the game just reminds me of when Bannon was coming through at Villa. A lot of Villa fans didn't like Barry Bannon. He's gone on to have a really good career, albeit not really in the Premier League. Obviously, he's become a Sheffield Wednesday icon in the time he's been playing there. But just his small frame and the way he manipulates the ball and stuff, he just busy around the pitch. Just reminds me a little bit of Barry Bannon, Jacob.
Yeah, and they're so good on the ball, aren't they? And they keep things just ticking over in terms of being a small midfielder, quite diminutive, but being able to control the game through possession, right? That's what probably England have missed in a midfield for years. I know, born in Scottish, but that type of midfield is
Scotland have probably missed it as well.
Well, yeah, Scotland missed a few things, haven't they? But, there's not many clubs that can produce a type of player that's small but can control a game through possession, be the metronome in midfield and ball, and has got those capabilities.
Just finally, one thing I wanted to ask you, because obviously you were there and you get a better kind of sense of what's going on when you're actually at a game. Can you see like Emery ball filtering down?
Oh,
can you? Is that like a genuine thing that you can see?
Yeah, I wrote about it today. Honestly, some of the similarities were carbon copy.
Are we talking just system or the style of football, or both?
Style of play, system. You have Bradley Burrows dropping into right back like Morgan Rogers does sometimes, into a back five, sometimes off to right back. Matty Cash, this time Tristan Rose just tucking in next to the centre back.
Oh, I like it.
There was an example I put in the piece of basically Emery bemoaned and after the Fulham game that Villa were just passing back for the sake of it. I'm sure supporters saying, why are we passing back all the time? But in the 49th minute, I think it was yesterday, they did it for a purpose. Tristan Rowe had the throw in halfway line, went all the way back to Sam Proctor, City pressed, and he passed it into George Hemmings, who is the most press resistant midfielder you'll see. Spun the City's midfielder, played straight into Jamaldino. How Jacob Ramsey often comes off the left, goes in centrally, receives it on the run, plays it out to Bradley Burrows, and it was just a passage of play, a pattern that has just been built, in Emery's, image basically, and every single thing Villa did basically is what I thought Emery would do against a City team. And like you sit quite mid-block, you hit him on transition, you switch the ball side to side, you really overload midfield. I think they're really good, and I think it's a testament to Jimmy Shan and the coaches that they can produce and coach a methodology so similar to the first team, and that's going to only serve them well in terms of the pathways going forward.
Was Emery there? Was Emery
I didn't see him. No.
Okay. I mean, it'd be interesting to know. I don't know if there's something you can look into, like how involved he is.
I spoke to Jimmy Shan about this yesterday. He's not obviously, he's not terribly involved in terms of he's not speaking to Shan constantly, telling him this and that, but he does set the tone in terms of this is the style of play he wants, and he will tell it to the age groups below. So Shan's in charge of the under-18s. Joseph Gambo's in charge of the under-21s. Gambo and Emery are best friends, so they'll speak, and maybe that's how the influence
filters down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's all interesting stuff. I mean, we came on here without a real plan of what we were gonna speak about, but I've really enjoyed. I've discovered some new things. I've asked some questions I didn't know I was going to ask. So it's been good. We've spoke about barbers. We've done everything really that we needed to do, Jacob.
Yeah, and also about the wedding as well. I got a bit of stick. Do you see that, Dan, for what I was wearing? Oh,
nah, there was some Larry out. Yours definitely wasn't the worst.
No, what? Who? Yeah, I can't. Were there any Larry outfits? Were there?
Oh, Lee Haynes had some Larry.
He did.
I liked it. I respected it, but it was a Larry.
The photo of me, you, Max Stokes, Simon Lyons.
Yeah,
you're all wearing suits, weren't you? And I seemed to be in some Star Trek gear, but it looked worse on the photo. I thought I looked okay in real life. Actually, I thought I looked quite smart. No,
I mean, my memory's quite hazy of the evening in general, but I don't remember thinking Jack's made no effort here.
Okay, I'll take that. That's absolutely fine. But
Simon and Max looked like they were like going to I don't know, Player of the Year awards maybe. Parrot tie. They've got themselves. But they were there yesterday. Of course, they don't miss anything, do they? I like that from the Bladinator. Jacob dressed well. Didn't see much of Jacob dance well though. From what I remember.
I did dance. I did see you anyway. You were just propping up the bar the whole time.
I was on the dance floor by the end.
No, well, I must have missed
Lee Haynes sent me a video last night. He looks disgusting.
Was it? Yeah. I danced. As soon as Come and Eileen came on, I was up there. I was ready to go. You missed him. I was looking out for you, see if you wanted to, dance with me, but you were too busy. Drinks being poured.
Too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a cameo on Villa on tour, and what on earth am I on about? Just
Can you remember
absolutely
talking
smashed.
to me or not?
Yeah. I remember
Okay.
talking to you. I
All right.
definitely remember talking. I remember my dad was buzzing to meet you. That was
Your dad's the loveliest man.
well,
What a great
he's an
man.
absolute nightmare to take to the football, but he's a lovely man. To be fair, I think my dad had the best time out of anyone, because like, he was speaking to you, he was speaking to Greg, Dave Reid. I think my dad, Rollo, obviously, I think my dad had and Max and Simon. I think my dad had a great time because all of the Villa podcasters were there basically. So
yeah, Greg snuck in, didn't he? I text Greg, so where are you? And then
he snuck in.
Yeah. Global Greg was there.
Global Greg was there. Right then, let's go, Jack. Let's not give away any more trade secrets from Saturday night. But thank you very much for joining me. You got anything exciting coming up this week?
I've got a few things I can't really say right now because it's still in the works. I haven't got my plans for definite, but there should be some stuff. Maybe on a few transfers. Who knows?
Oh, tell you what, we'll watch. Maybe we'll throw in a transfer show a little bit later on in the week. Then, Jacob, maybe we should do that.
Maybe. Who knows?
I will say, I think you dropped something in earlier on in the show that you weren't supposed to say as well, that a few people picked up on in the chat. I know what you're alluding to, but it's not going to be good news for a lot of people. I don't think. Yeah, you did drop that in, and a few people have picked up on it on the chat, but I won't alert any more attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go. Sorry. Right, let's go. Thank you very much to Jacob for joining me. Thank you to however many of you have joined us live on YouTube. For some reason, I can't see the number like I usually can. It's much appreciated. If you are watching via YouTube, I mean, don't worry about tucking into food, Jacob. Jacob's obviously starving. If you are watching via, I've just knocked some food over. If you are watching via YouTube, then subscribe with your post notifications on and leave a comment as well if you can, and give us a like, whether you've been watching live or you're going back and watching. If you're listening via audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, please can you leave us a 5-star review and say something nice about us, and Spotify 5 stars as well, please, and also a nice little comment. People are already buzzing at the potential transfer show that we might do later on in the week. We're going to have to do one now, Jacob.
It's not for definite. It's not for definite.
Well, we're going to do a transfer show anyway and see what we can come up with a little bit later on in the week. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled to the channel. What day is it today? Tuesday. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Go back and watch the pod that Greg and I did yesterday post Fulham as well if you haven't done so already. And as ever, we'll